Hi, I'm really glad that you're back for episode 3 of the Tutor Edit. Now, I wanted to talk today about something that I don't think we always notice when we move from teaching into tutoring. And that's just how much we bring with us without realising it. If we haven't met, I'm Jane Billam, the founder of Vireo Tuition, an online tuition business that has grown from me tutoring face-to-face in local libraries when my son was a baby. And over time, that has grown into teaching international students online. And somehow I now have a team of over 60 tutors that deliver tuition worldwide to our students. Each week in the Tutor Edit, I'll share my reflections from my own business and the conversations that I have with tutors, not to tell you what to do, but just to pass on what I've learned through lived experience over tutoring for over 12 years. That can help you to make some intentional choices about building a tutoring business that fits with real life. Now, when we leave teaching, especially if it was a big part of your identity, you do not just leave a job. You carry habits, assumptions, responses, ways of working that once made a lot of sense. And at first, they're really helpful. When I started tutoring, so much of what I brought with me from teaching felt like a strength. The organisation, the sense of responsibility, my professionalism, the instinct to be prepared, to be able to anticipate needs before anybody had to ask. And these things made me a good tutor, and they still do. And they're really important skills to have. But over time, I started to notice that some of those habits were starting to have an impact on my business in ways that I hadn't really chosen. One of the biggest ones for me was availability, because in teaching, you're used to always being needed all the time. There's always somebody waiting, always something that's urgent and needs to be done, always that low-level sense that you should be on top of everything. So when I moved into tutoring, that mindset absolutely came with me. I replied to everything immediately. I stayed switched on mentally. Like, I thought and carried students and families with me in my head, even when I wasn't teaching. And for a really long time, that just felt like being professional. Another thing that I carried was a habit of absorbing the pressure. Now, my nickname in school, and probably still is to a certain extent, is the Swan. This idea that everything looks calm, graceful, organised on the surface, but underneath the legs are going. And that's what it looked like in tutoring, making everything work. When it felt messy sometimes, my instinct was the same in my tutoring business. I'll just sort it out. I'll carry it. I'll fix it. I'll make this better. And that's not a flaw. It's how we're trained. It's ingrained into our sense of self as a teacher. But what works in a school system doesn't always work in a business that you're building for yourself. And teaching can give you a very particular relationship with time. Like, you get used to everything being very regimented and your work bleeding into your evening, your weekends. And that felt very normal at first. Like, that sense of tiredness that tutoring would have sometimes, that was normal for me because I was tired as a teacher. That rhythm was familiar. And I think that's the key thing here, that we often keep doing things not because they're right for us now, but because they feel known and comfortable. And I see this with other tutors all the time too. Tutors recreating structures that are representative of school without really meaning to, creating timetables that run them rather than support the life that they wanted when they left the classroom, believing that being exhausted just shows that you care. And this doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It just means that you're bringing that level of professional conditioning with you to a very different context. And what's helped me as I've tried to unlearn this is just trying to separate what I want to keep from what I don't. And it's okay to not want to keep everything. There are things that I've kept from teaching, like high standards, the care that I have for our students, the depth of knowledge and professional development, my commitment to doing the job properly and achieving the best results for our students. But there are other things that I've had to look at in a much more honest way. The need to be constantly available, for example, my innate reflex to just absorb pressure from everywhere else. The belief that if something feels urgent, then therefore is important. And this is something that I just want you to pause and think about how we can start to pick up on these habits. So what I'd like you to do is just think about one habit in your tutoring business that feels automatic, that you haven't really thought about. Not everything, just one. It might be that you pride yourself on replying to messages immediately. It may be that you work evenings by default because you don't think that there is a different way to structure your timetable. It could be that you over-prepare everything. It could be that you are feeling responsible for everybody's outcomes. And then I just want you to ask yourself one simple question. Did I choose this for my tutoring business, or did I bring this with me from teaching? That's it. You don't need to change it yet. You don't need to fix anything, because just by noticing something and recognizing that maybe it's inherited rather than chosen can be very powerful in itself. If you want to go one step further, you might just ask yourself this: if I keep doing this exactly as I am, what does it cost me? And that could be costing you time. It could be costing you energy. It could be costing you evenings. It could be costing you presence. It could be costing you headspace. And again, there's absolutely no judgment because I have all of this, but it's just for information, because once you can see what you're carrying, you get to decide if that still comes with you. And that decision doesn't have to happen all at once. It goes back to the previous episode of your business evolving and changing. And this links so closely to what we have been talking about in terms of seasons, about noticing if we are acting with intention or just kind of going along with things and being carried away in the busyness. Because sometimes, often, what doesn't feel heavy in our work is not the tutoring. That's where the joy happens. It can sometimes be you thinking about questioning yourself all the time, or the drain on your time, or the extra energy that this is taking. Because you didn't leave teaching empty-handed. You did bring a lot with you, and it's very important to recognise that now we're allowed to decide what comes with us. We are allowed to make those decisions ourselves because we are business owners now. We're not being told what to do by a senior leadership team, and that can feel uncomfortable. So just let this sit for a bit and let me know your thoughts. You can find me over on Instagram at @Vireo_Academy, and I look forward to hearing from you. Have a great week. Bye.